typography is a craft and art that show you how complicated things can get.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into Nodes of Design. To help support our mission spread knowledge, we have a very special guest on today's episode. Let's welcome Yomar Augusto, who is a hybrid creative and director at Toya, where he had worked with global clients from around the world like Nike, Coca-Cola, Google, TWA Europe, TWA LA, Amsterdam Worldwide, and many more. Yomar also taught typography for advertising at Willem de Kooning Academy in Rotterdam and the Fashion Institute of Technology and the School of Visual Arts in NYC. He also held a number of experimental calligraphy and book art workshop in many countries. He also presented commercial and conceptual projects with solo exhibitions in Asia, Europe, North and South America. In this episode, Yomar had shared wonderful insights on experimental process in type. We spoke on what exactly is experimental process or approach. We also spoke about how we stress a lot about processes and stages for designing different elements and all. We spoke on how to strategize your process for a traditional manner or a traditional approach, how to get out of the creative block while we are designing for the same thing, and what are the various ways that Yomar does himself to get out of the creative block. In the end, we spoke about how one can improve their visual vocabulary. Hope you guys enjoy this episode, and on every Friday, we release new episode with different creative leaders around the world to make you help better understand different topics of design. So don't forget to tune in into Notes of Design every Friday. With that being said, happy designing everyone. Hi Yomar, welcome to Nodes of Design. It's a pleasure hosting you today on our show.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Yomar. So how's your day going?
Oh, day's great. I just came back from the beach. Was surfing a little bit and I worked a little bit in the morning. Day's beautiful. Summer is here in California now, so I can trying to be, going with a mask to the beach. So it's kind of strange, but you have to protect yourself. So I hope you guys are protecting yourselves there in India.
Thank you so much. Yes, we are protecting ourselves because the cases are increasing over there in India right now. And the curve is just going up and up every day. And hope every listener of ours is also safe. Said with that, Yomar, if you could give a brief about yourself to our audience out there.
It's very straightforward. I'm originally from Brazil. I'm a graphic designer, typographer, and artist. I'm kind of a hybrid person. I kind of like to work in different sectors and in different mediums. I'm currently based in California, but before I was based in New York City, and before that I was based in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and where I did my master course in typography. And I'm originally from Brazil. I grew up in Rio de Janeiro. I grew up on the beach, so that's why for me it's very the beach is a very important place. I cannot see myself living without going to the beach. It's a very important environment to be. It's beautiful, seeing the water, the sky, the wind, and the sand, and the light. It's something that's truly part of me. So and being California is great. I work independently. I'm a freelancer working for companies around the world, and I do my personal projects as well.
Thank you so much, Yomar. So what was your journey into design and how did you start?
The journey in design and art, I think, started with my family. My family is a family of artists. My mom is a fashion designer. My sister is an art book binder. My cousin is a photographer. I have another cousin. He's a master puppeteer, theater puppeteers. He'd make puppets for theaters and masks. And I have my aunt she's a fine artist, and my another aunt she does a little ceramics before, not anymore, but. So I grew up in an environment of a lot of artists in my family. So it's in my family DNA. So I kind of got inspired, especially my sister was always my main tutor and master. She always has been a great inspiration for myself. My journey into design is kind of, I always like to draw letters at high school. I met this friend and he told me the way how to do typography in perspective, how to do perspective. And at my high school, we have perspective drawings. Actually, something that school was a bit different, was military school. And we have this perspective drawing class. And then I was starting to design typography in perspective, like logotypes in perspective. And nowadays you can do easy in your computer, but I was doing by hand. And so I got very, very interested in seeing my sister working was very inspiring to me. So I wanted to follow her steps. And then I gradually went to college to study graphic design and I in Brazil, in Rio. But I always wanted to go to Europe to study design because I was a big fan of British design, British graphic design, because of the musicians and music and video. But I ended up going to the Netherlands. The Netherlands is a country with a lot of design culture and design tradition. So I went there to study typography after I studied design, and I worked with my sister, and then after I worked with another company in Brazil, and then I moved to Europe. In Europe, I did my master course in typography, so I have to stop my life to study typography for a year. So typography, you need to do that. You need to stop a lot. You need to spend a year doing type. I think that is a good 6 months, between 6 months and a year, because typography is very complex. And then after 9 years in Europe, I decided to move to New York City. And I lived in New York for 3 years. And afterwards, I moved to California. So my route into design always been like being a little bit displaced, if I can say it. I think being displaced and trying to understand the new place that I go, and understanding the market and trying to find people who produce work, and meeting new people always has been very important to me. So I realized that traveling and moving my life around has been a great inspiration. So this affects my design work a lot. So that's how I start. If I can say how I started design was through my sister, if I say it.
Thank you so much, Yomar, for taking us through your journey. So what are your tips to the beginners on how to start?
I think a wise guy told me once, if you want to ask advice, don't ask advices. Try to find on your own. I think that is I think there is not that much mystery. I think design, you need to go to the normal routes of colleges and courses and study a lot about the history of design, history of art history, 3D, work with your hands a lot, constructing models and things, and really trying to get out. Use the computer as part of your process, not only the computer. You know what I mean? Computer isn't just another tool as a pen. It's just maybe a more sophisticated pen, But I think I'm a very simple I love raw approaches. So computers sometimes can make your work too shiny. So be careful about shiny, try to be raw and objective what you want. I think continually studying something that is always has been important to me. That I studied graphic design in Brazil. I studied typography in the Netherlands, and I studied film and photography and filmmaking in New York City. And this has been very important to me to be able to be inside of education institutions. Since when before I moved to New York twice. I moved to New York in 2001 very briefly, and then I went back to Brazil before I moved to Europe. Then I realized that it being connected with education institutions always has been good to me. So I and since that I teach, I'm a professor, I'm always being connected with education projects since back 2002. So I've been teaching for 18 years. I think that has been a great impact in my life, But I think if you want a simple answer for your question, that is a very complicated question, I think, is keeping yourself curious and interested about things, Trying to research and study and finding reference books, the things that you like and things that inspire you. I'm always with my students, I always thinking about inspiration. What inspires you? You don't need to do all great work all the time. You just need to feel yourself motivated about your work, Even if the work is not very strong. if the work motivates you and you feel motivated about it, that's what moves you. This is motivate. This is important to me. So you move forward. You kind of one step at a time. Making a good day. I think I would say to make a good day. Enjoy your day. Make a good day. Don't think too much about the month and the year. If you have a college to do, like 4 years, so try to do the day by day. A strong day, another strong day, then you have a strong week. And then another week, you have 2 strong weeks. And then after 4 weeks, you have 1 strong month. And when you have it, you have a solid year, and things you're gonna build day by day. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Yomar, for giving us those great, wonderful insights. So let's begin our episode with experimental process in type. So what exactly is experimental process or approach?
Oh, that's another complicated question. You need to find out. It's a little bit like cooking. You need to create your own recipes. And a lot of mistakes, you burn a lot of bread. You need to, I think type is one of typography, right? It's one of the crafts that you might have to stop your life 1 year to study type and a classical point of view. I'm not necessarily saying that you need to do that. I think it has been great for me and seeing type, because typography has 500 years of, at least the European Latin type, 500 years of metal type history since the metal type. And experimentation comes when how can I say that? I mean, through my life, I've been experimenting with so many things, with photography and painting and laser cuts, a silk screen, a projection and filmmaking. Why not to try to do a typography that reacts with filmmaking and projection, for instance, or a typography a type system that reacts using agriculture. You can, and then agriculture means what? Earth, plants. You can find old plants and photograph them and transform into type and this kind of stuff. I've been experimenting since that I like so many things. I try to cross them over. So and try and see the reactions. And it's all about. It's a kind of little bit like a lab, a laboratory that you keep experimenting and a lot of mistakes. There is 99% mistakes, and the mistakes will keep you motivated. So the mistakes are very important, you know what I mean? Because the mistakes make you go, what the mistake makes, they makes you go deeper. You go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you find something that is, if you feel that you're closer to find something interesting, you keep doing the mistakes and then you find something, oh, this is cool, and then you see there's all this action reaction thing. So experimentation, there's not way how to teach. You need to actually allow yourself to be not super concerned to do beautiful things, but the attitude is to create something that motivates you and things that you like and mix them. And try to create these combinations, you know what I mean?
Thank you so much, Yomar. But in traditional design, we stress a lot about processes, stages, and other things. So are there any different approaches than following a traditional way? How do you strategize your process?
I think design is becoming very UX experience based and this kind of stuff. I think and I try to do, that's answering your question. For commercial projects, I primarily do typography, lettering, and maybe corporate identities where typography is very central part of the project. So strategy, but you mean strategy to the work or strategy to find clients?
Strategy to work?
Well, the way I do it's pretty simple. Like I find the concept of the project and I try to correlate it, the concept of the project. And then I try to find what's the DNA of this project. So for instance, going back to agriculture. So I'm working for a farm. A farm wants to do like a type system. So what you can try to relate it. You try to find, okay, they have grass, they have water, they have soil, they have fertilizers, and try to create these concepts and try to imagine how a typography system can react through these concepts. So that's, I have to say, I don't really have a strategy. I try to find I have a strategy. Maybe the strategy is finding the DNA and try to represent this DNA through a language that I definitely can understand, and try to create a presentation process that the client will be able to understand as well. It's very simple. I don't really like crazy, very complex strategies and brands and guides and super crazy briefs. I'm a very simple person. I'm not very simple, but in a complex way, but it's simple in a way that I want to express the idea, and then because I think simplicity is better to achieve complex processes. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally agree on that, Yomar. How do you put the experiment process in regards to type? What are the various ways you do, to get out of your creative block designing the same thing again and again?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, I do a lot of personal projects, a lot. Half of my life, 50% of my time is personal stuff, that all about the mistakes and the tryouts and the projects that I believe they're the soul and the core of my studio. Sometimes they bring money, sometimes they don't. I mean, because sometimes it's easy for you to think. Let me answer you in a different way. I think there's two ways. I work in two different ways. For clients, I work in a different way than I work for my own projects. And I try to cross over the energy and the motivation between the projects, because type can be so vast. So, for instance, if I work for an Indian company, there's so many dialects in India and so many different cultures in the country. So it'd be difficult for me. You have to understand the culture of the country to design a typeface for your country. That's what I'm talking about. That's very complicated. So typography is a craft and art that show you how complicated things can get. So you need to decide how complicated you want to be. So that year studying type, I figured it out who I am, in type, what I want to do in type. So I think another advice for students, don't be too hasty to try to figure it out who you are as a designer or a creative. You take your time, try to realize that life is an experimentation, and try to enjoy your process while you're doing it. Try to find out when you figured it out, then you allow yourself to be more relaxed to work. You know what I mean? But for creative block, I think I have a couple of things. For instance, I just came back from the beach. That's a great creative block for myself. I relax and I put stuff in perspective and stuff like that. But regarding type and experimentation projects, I try to cross over between my personal projects and client projects. The personal projects, I consider them like where I can test and then do mistakes and test again and go super deep into Yomar Augusto's work, like that. I can try to investigate your life. I mean, there's nothing that's the interesting thing about the approach of personal projects. You literally, because when you work for a client, you're kind of investigating their situation, their problem, whatever, or their brand or their product or whatever they want to do. You're investigating that, you're researching, and always think about a research. You're always researching. So when you do personal projects, you research about yourself. So when you have your client the one side and you on the other side, you kind of, when you combine them, becomes super interesting, because you're seeing your client a little bit like you're seeing yourself. You know what I mean? So you kind of can create this nuances, hidden and subliminal informations. They're right there in front of you, but you don't see it. But you need the mistakes and the research and the experimentation to find them.
Thank you so much, Yomar, for it. So this question often comes to creatives that, is there any way to improve or change the visual vocabulary?
Visual vocabulary. I mean, I think there is a bunch of different ways. I think definitely for me, I think the important for me is traveling. I love to travel and to see different, even if you travel inside of your own country or inside of your own neighborhood, finding different streets that you've never been. I would say the second one would be, I love second hand. They are dying now, but secondhand bookshops. I like them a lot. Seeing things from the past, research the history. History is an important thing about understanding the history, the city history where you're living in, the city, the country history, the family history, design history. I'm interested in history. So that's something that helps me a lot. Maybe a visual vocabulary, definitely. Being a freelancer is a very unique perspective, because you meet so many different, when you don't have a job, a full-time job, but you're a freelancer, you meet so many different people. I would say talking to strangers is interesting, that you spend your visual vocabulary, right? Vocabulary is what you speak, the words that you know. Secondhand shops or something. Vocabulary, I would say maybe try to find people that is better than you, and be connected to them and understanding how they do it. Having always a masters that you can always, I don't think that you know everything. I think being humbled is a very important thing because visual vocabulary, what visual vocabulary is? Visual is your vision. So first of all, you need to open your eyes to see, right? If you close your eyes, you don't see anything. You can talk, you can have the vocabulary part, but you need to open your eyes and be humble. Sometimes talking to people that is simpler than you as well, like people with less opportunities than you, is something that makes you realize how you can be fortunate in life. And being humbled, is something that is important. Listen to everybody, talk to everybody, this kind of stuff.
Thank you so much, Yomar. That was really so insightful. So on a concluding note, I would love you to recommend 3 favorite books of yours and also 3 people who inspire you the most in this ecosystem.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the 3 books I sent you before is The Power of Now. It was a very important book for me when I was in trouble. The book of Tibor Kalman is a very special graphic designer person, creative person, where he was behind the Colors magazine, and such amazing designer. Unfortunately passed away super young. And Peter Hall is a writer. He writes about design, and he wrote a book that I really love about mapping and like the whole digitalization of Google Earth, this kind of stuff. These are 3 books. Definitely Tibor Kalman is one important guy. I mean, there's so many guys and people that inspire me. It's difficult to say in only 3. I mean, but if I pick 3 people, I would say Camille Claudel. Camille Claudel was in relationship with Rodin, the French sculptor. Her life is very interesting. She was so gifted in sculpture. I think she was an apprentice from Rodin, and somehow I like her work better than Rodin. I think Frida Kahlo is an important creative power person. After I been in Mexico City and I saw her house, I could not believe her paintings and her work and her mind, and it was just like was mesmerizing. And maybe Stefan Segmeister is somebody that I always look at, look towards to become something, but never. So it's a little bit like what Picasso said, right? I want to be Velasquez, but I end up being myself. So that's something that is important. So looking into these people, anybody can inspire you, but remember, you are the pilot of your ship. So be in control of your boat and navigate through the ocean, and be ready. It's gonna come some storms, and sometimes you're gonna go into the water and you're gonna grasp for air, and then you climb back to the boat, and that's the adventure. I think what I mean. The destination is the journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yomar, for giving us your wonderful time and explaining us this complicated thing in a very storytelling manner. We would love to host you again going forward.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope I can come and visit India. I'm enjoying, I'm eating so much Indian food. I love it. I need to visit the country to eat the Indian food in India for sure. I'm very interested to go to Goa, to visit Mumbai and Delhi and Bangalore, the tech center. And yeah, for sure. I'm very interested. Maybe we can run workshops there. It'll be a great pleasure, great opportunity. Thank you for having me.